Have you ever wanted to juggle but thought that you couldn't juggle or that you weren't cool enough to juggle? Well, in this video, I'm going to dive into the basics on how you can start juggling very quickly. Let's go! To begin with, let's talk about the types of juggling balls you will need. To an outsider, it might seem easy, just a ball. But actually, it's a bit more complicated than that. If your aim is to learn, you'd like a ball like this, multicoloured, so when you're doing tricks, it's easy to spot. And you also want it to have beans in, because at the end of the day, when you're juggling, the last thing you want to do is for a ball to end up over there, and a ball to end up over there, whilst you're still trying to learn how to do regular cascade. So, you want to get yourself a good multicoloured ball with beans inside, with the sole purpose of, it doesn't bounce anywhere. Next, I'd recommend you don't use socks. Now, socks might be fun if you're just having a little informal play around, but socks are very soft and squishy, and you don't want a ball that's too soft, too squishy, or too lightweight, simply because it will end up flying. You want quite a decently sized, decently weighted ball, and you want a ball that's just about the size of your palm. So that's good. So if you want to palm a ball, you can just catch it easily, and it matches the size of your hand. And without further ado, let's start talking about how you can start to juggle. You might think that to begin juggling, you need to juggle 3 balls really complicatedly, but that's not the case. Start with one ball, and it might sound silly, but simply throw it from one hand to the other. Whilst this might seem easy, you need to make sure that you're throwing them consistently. Don't have throws over here, and then throws over here, because you won't be able to maintain that. Yes, you might be able to catch it once, twice, or maybe 3 times, but after that, you won't be able to. So just try and be consistent. I like to think of there being on your nose, just a little bit above your nose, between your 2 eyes. Imagine there's a point about a hand length in front of you, and then you're going to try and hit that point with the ball. And you're just going to create a nice arc, like a rainbow, going like this, back and forwards, from your left hand to your right, from your right hand to your left. And you're going to want to do this around 100 to 200 times, just until you get really confident with this, and you can practically do it with your eyes closed. And now we're going to add another ball. Start in your dominant hand and throw the ball in your dominant hand in the arc, just like we've talked about. You want a nice arch shape, like that. With the only difference being, if you're right-handed, you're going to throw off from your right hand, then your left hand will arch a ball under. Whereas if you're left-handed, you're going to throw an arch with your left hand, and your right hand will arch under. Watch. You see? My right hand is throwing up to my other hand, then my left hand is going under. Right, left. Throw, throw, catch, catch. Throw, throw, catch, catch. Throw, throw, catch, catch. And then, once you get good at that, try to do it the other way. Left, right, catch, catch. Or if you're left-handed, right, left, catch, catch. Left, right, catch, catch. Left, right, catch, catch. Left, right, catch, catch. Left, right, catch, catch. And it's simple as that. Now, you want to do this until you're confident that you can do it like this. You want to be able to do it pretty much anywhere and at any height. And also, it's very important to remember, still try to hit the same point. Remember, between the eyes, 1 hand length in front. Because you don't want it to go up here, because then you'll just drop it. And you also don't want balls to go like this, because then you've got very little time to react. And now is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to introduce our 3rd ball. So, it's going to be effectively the same as what we've been doing. We can do it with 1 ball, we can do it with 2 balls, so we're just adding in another ball. This will take some practice, so don't worry if you can't do it the first try. My top tip is to try it in a day, then if you can't quite manage it, go to bed, do some homework, go for a run, go for a walk, watch a YouTube video, watch a Netflix documentary, do whatever you want, switch off, and then come back the next day or after you feel refreshed, because your brain will be replaying those muscle movements of this in your brain, and as a result, when you pick up juggling balls the next day, it'll feel much easier. And in fact, I did this back in 2020. I started juggling in 2020, and I was able to pretty much do this, but not very well. Then I picked up my juggling balls 5 years later in 2025, and then I was able to juggle more consistently and better than ever. So it's all well and good me telling you this, but you want to know the technique. You want to throw with your most dominant hands first. You want to have 2 balls in your most dominant hand and 1 ball in your non-dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to have 2 balls in my right hand and 1 ball in my left hand. Then I'm going to go throw with my right, throw with my left. There we go. That's just what we've been practicing with 2 balls. We're just getting used to having a ball on the side as a reserve, like so. And then you're going to want to, after you catch with your left hand, so after you caught the first ball, that could be in your left hand if you're right-handed, or the right hand if you're left-handed, you're going to throw the second ball. 1, 1, catch, then throw. Notice how, I'll play it in slow motion. So you've noticed how my right hand will only throw the second ball once I've caught the ball in this hand. Because at the end of the day, you're only ever going to have 2 balls in the air at one time, meaning that you'll have 1 ball in your hand and 2 balls in the air at any one time. Now, as I say, don't expect to be able to master this in an hour. You need to do it a lot, and remember my top tip, to take a break. So, now you should be able to do this. And now you'll want to know your next steps. Well, there are several next steps, including some tricks and introducing a 4th ball, but all of those will be covered in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you really did find this video enjoyable and useful. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe, and feel free to comment any suggestions for future tricks, videos, or ideas for other videos. Thank you very much, and I shall see you next time. Until then, Micken Monster out. Bye!